So you're obviously here to learn about how human error undermines IT security and what you can do about it. Just a quick intro to me. I've been in IT for about 30 odd years. The company Ingenious, we've been in business for 23 odd years, looking after IT needs for small to medium-sized businesses. And obviously now we get involved a lot in security. Please feel free to raise any questions. I think you can do a Q&A. I'm not 100% sure whether chat is enabled on this, but please feel free to ask questions. And of course, at the end of this, contact me on my direct dial, which is at the bottom of every slide, my direct email, or visit our website at your leisure. Now, this is only the second webinar I've ever done, so I'm a little bit green or rusty or whatever the phrase is, but let's get into it. If I can move to the next slide. Here we go. So what are cyber criminals after? Well, they want a number of different things, including money, usually extortion or transferring money from accounts, power or influence, financial information, personal profiling data, passwords, etc. That is, corporate data, of course, and sensitive information, usually sort of government institutions, personal data from public or private companies. Of course, information relating to new product research and development, intellectual property, for example, access to systems. This can be to cryptomine, so you can take over an entire network that belongs to an organization and turn their machines into mining machines that will create cryptocurrency, which obviously has a value to criminals, and create zombies. That's basically a word for just taking over machines to carry out your will. Also, of course, to place spyware on machines and adware to kind of try and steal information. It's mostly about information, though. Viruses, forget it. It's money. Viruses are a thing of the distant past. If you think about it, what was the point in just damaging systems anyway, other than really geeky point scoring? That was 15, 20 plus years ago. It's now all about taking your hard-earned cash. So you may be thinking it's fine, we've got a certain amount of protection, and hopefully you're protecting your network, for example, with a firewall, with a thing called UTM, Unified Threat Management. That's where firewalls can filter traffic or intercept viruses or provide certain levels of protection when visiting various sites on the internet. I'm hoping you're also protecting your cloud services, including your website. So cloud services such as Microsoft 365, they don't back up your data. You really should. Hopefully you're backing up your website too. And of course, if you're running things like WordPress, well, they need to be patched and updated and regularly maintained. Machines, yeah, PCs, Macs, servers, tablets, mobiles, etc. We talk about endpoint protection. That's a more modern word for antivirus. And these two acronyms, EDR and MDR. EDR stands for Endpoint Detect and Respond, and MDR is Managed Endpoint Detect and Respond. More sophisticated tools that can run on systems that allow for remediation, but more importantly with MDR, someone's actually watching it and fixing and ring fencing and remediating and even protecting the rest of the network or the systems from what may have happened. DNS filtering is a thing that protects you from visiting dodgy sites or drive-by download or places of up to no good. You should also be protecting your email system, usually with email security, hopefully with a thing called ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, in place, looking for patterns and obviously links, attachments, things like that. And of course, data, backing up your data, being able to roll back in time, versioning as well to a certain degree with data. People. Are you actually looking after your people? And this is kind of what this is about. So the top 5 security threats that affect people. I'm just going to read from a bit of a script here because there's a bit to remember. The threat landscape is vast. There are always new types of attacks, but these are some of the most common, but also the most dangerous threats. Number one, phishing. Basically, any type of email-based attack is called phishing. We're also attacked by text messaging, which is called smishing, and by phone, vishing. Essentially, the attacker needs the user to believe the email for it to succeed, or obviously the other methods. CEO fraud. Any email that appears to be from a senior member of staff asking someone for help, making a payment or similar. This is tricky bit. The tricky bit is that there are no attachments or links, just a plain text email, which makes it very difficult for email security and other tools to detect. Credential harvesting. Have you had a Microsoft 365 email or a Gmail account, a Gmail that asks you to change your password? If so, it was probably a credential harvesting attack. Attackers send them knowing that while MFA, that's multi-factor authentication, may prevent them getting access to Microsoft 365, once they have a username and password, they will send that out to a huge range of other services in a credential stuffing attack to see if they can get into other places. Social engineering, this takes a little bit more effort from attackers, but don't be fooled. It's a hugely common attack. Attackers working in offices all over the world, no different to your own, will gather different bits of information from a business and specific targets within it to deliver a highly believable attack. An example is an impersonation attack on new members of staff with an email from the MD asking them to buy vouchers or similar. How do they know how and when to deliver this? Well, they have a tool to monitor things like LinkedIn. So when new staff post, just started at my new job at blah, 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 or employers post messages about new starters, it will highlight this to the attacker. They then look at the MD name, can usually guess what the email address will look like, and then they deliver their attack. That's surprisingly common. And of course, ransomware, probably the one that most people know more about than the rest. This is not always email-based attacks. Sometimes it is as simple as hovering over an image in a browser that triggers malware to run on the device, which then initiates the ransomware. But how are people meant to understand the risks if they're not told about them? The biggest risk of all is human error. 91% of cybersecurity attacks start with a phishing email. What is the biggest winner for the criminals and the easiest and almost impossible to trace, leaving you with little choice and usually a massive payout potential for criminals? Well, no surprise there really, it's ransomware. Well, why so? Right, you may think that your data is not important or of value to anyone. Well, you are mistaken because it is to you. Ransomware is so beautifully simple. Encrypt all your data, hold you to ransom to get it decrypted, and take payment in Bitcoin, so it's near impossible to retrieve or trace. There is no real way to deal with this other than to restore from backup or pay. A really recent example that for some reason wasn't all over the news for weeks on end, but Royal Mail lost their ability to ship any international parcels back in January. They were asked for an $80 million ransom, which they refused to pay. It was quite a funny conversation from one of the chief executives in Royal Mail telling them that they weren't going to pay this ridiculous amount because they didn't have it. There was no way out. I don't think the ransom was paid, but yeah, it took them 6 weeks to recover the ability to send international parcels. One more thing. You've heard of SaaS, software as a service, for example, Microsoft 365. There are loads of as a services, but what about RAS or RAS or RAAS? That is ransomware as a service. This is where you can go online and get a kit for not a huge amount of money, a full kit with detailed instructions. Anyone can find it, and you download it and off you go. It tells you how to go off and infect people with ransomware and make a load of money. This particular problem is not going to go away anytime soon, and I'm not sure it ever will. There is no way to stop it, and it's horribly simple and effective. So, what can we do? I should say there is no magic bullet. There is no single solution, but you can easily learn how to protect yourselves and your data. One of the most important aspects of IT security is security awareness training. And this is largely what this presentation is about, with phishing simulations and testing. Now, we use a particular product. It's actually called KnowBe4, but there are others. It's user-centric, reason being that if people don't like the training or feel victimized by the testing, they will react negatively. But when you deliver training to people that is engaging, entertaining, but most of all short and sweet, they retain more information and are far happy to do the training. Training is delivered in every 3 weeks, which helps to keep security at the top of people's minds. The training is always new, always fresh, and never repetitive. On the phish testing side, we recommend that people are told they're going to be tested. This helps them realize that testing is purely to allow them to make mistakes, but in a secure environment. The benefits are that you get people to keep kept on their toes. They will not want to fail one of these tests, so they will always be looking for them, which means they will spot more phishing attacks too. The other benefit is that because of the randomized way the testing is done, if a person tries to warn another person, they will just be raising awareness around the phishing because nobody else will have the same email. We stagger the sending of the emails over a week and send different emails to each person from a library of over 22,000 email templates. Some companies find it really fun to gamify and admit when they're falling for. The platform is user-friendly. If someone fails a test, they will not see the word fail or anything else negative. Instead, the user will get training that will help them avoid making the same mistakes again. This point of failure training is fundamental because people are always more receptive to training when they have just made a mistake. The platform was also easily accessible, allowing people to access via a web browser or a mobile app. What this all delivers is a new age security awareness training that is people-centric to ensure success. This tried and tested approach also helps build your human firewall by changing user behavior in a positive and permanent way. We're nearly done, only 2 more slides. I should have revealed those a minute ago. Bite-sized learning, so on and so forth. We've been through that. Remember in this last slide, I said there's no magic bullet. There's no single solution. Well, this is obviously where we come in. Our company has spent years, ever since ransomware first came out, we put together what we consider to be a security stack of products. We now call it managed security. This is our 2023/24 offering. It's our current offering. It's extremely thorough. It should give you an idea of what you need to consider to be the bare essentials. You'll notice one of the plans is called Essential, one's called Enhanced, and they're taking it to an extreme. It's probably more for financial companies or people who really are protecting or needing to look after really high value and confidential data. I'm not going to read through every single one of these elements because I'm trying to keep this webinar inside 15 minutes. We're getting close. If you do want an explanation of all of these, there is a link on the last slide to our website. The game changer, though, is definitely about the fifth line down, security awareness training that we just talked about, and the phishing simulations beneath that. But the bottom line of the essential package is the MDR solution, which I really would think it needs to be a standard now that everybody rolls out, with a security operations center sitting behind. So if something happens, even if it's in the middle of the night, the machine will get remediated. Well, hopefully the malware, ransomware, whatever it is, will be intercepted. The machine will be rolled back, the data recovered, and we've seen it in test environments where that has been done inside 20 minutes. And actually, this isn't as expensive as you may think. We have to price it per person, workstation, and mailbox because people sometimes do mix and match people, machines, and mailboxes. But to give you probably the level of security that I would say 999 out of 1,000 companies do not have is this list on the left-hand side. And £5 a person, £9 a workstation, £5 a mailbox. Typical person, £19 a month. It gives you, well, the MDR solution in its own right is at least 20 or 30 pounds. So that's one of the benefits of working with us on something like this. And the last slide is really asking if there are any questions. For feel free to, hopefully I know how to use this Q&A thing. The pricing page on the right-hand side details our security offering, the middle tab. If you go to pricing in the middle tab, and the click here link, that third arrow, or literally the graphic in the bottom right-hand corner, will take you off to an explanation of every single one of those things on the list. And please, if you do go to our website, feel free to use the link to book an expert. They'll book some time in with one of us. It's usually either me or Howard, my services manager, or one other senior technical guy. It doesn't have to be technical, it can be business related as well. We're here to help. Please take advantage of our vast knowledge on this and all aspects of IT. Now, hopefully, I hope you found this useful. And please, any questions, pop them into the Q&A. I'll leave this page up for a bit, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for coming.